the circling lines. Our planet rotates on its axis and revolves around the Sun on its orbit. Axis. It is an imaginary line on which the Earth rotates or spins. It meets the Earth's surface at the North Pole and South Pole. One complete rotation takes 24 hours or 1 day. One complete revolution takes 365 and 1/4 days or 1 year. Hence, we are able to calculate time, days and years. As the Earth does both the actions, that is, rotation and revolution simultaneously, we experience the different seasons too. Look at the globe of the Earth. Here we can see the axis, the equator, and lots of other lines. These are imaginary lines and they aren't visible on the Earth's surface. Latitudes. Latitudes are lines that run parallel to the equator and to each other. They are called parallels of latitude. Their size keeps getting smaller as we go north or south of the equator. The last lines at the top and the bottom are like tiny dots. These are the poles. The equator is the longest and most important latitude. As the Earth is round, the equator is also called the Great Circle. It is an imaginary line drawn halfway between the North Pole and the South Pole. It divides the Earth into two halves. The part north of the equator is the northern hemisphere, and the part south of the equator is the southern hemisphere. The measurement of degrees of latitude begins from the equator. All the latitudes are given numbers. The N indicates it is north of the equator and S indicates it is south of the equator. The equator is at 0 degree. These are some other important latitudes. They are: Tropic of Cancer is at 23.5 degrees north. Tropic of Capricorn is at 23.5 degrees south. Both these are named after the constellation of stars. Arctic Circle is at 66.5 degrees north. Antarctic Circle is at 66.5 degrees south. North Pole is at 90 degrees north. South Pole is at 90 degrees south. The latitudes circle the globe in an east-west direction. There are a total of 181 lines of latitudes, that is, 90 latitudes to the north of the equator, 90 latitudes to the south of the equator, and the equator. Lines of latitude give us the position of a place to the north or south of the equator. Longitudes. Lines of longitude run from the north to the south and meet at the poles. These lines are also known as meridians. Meridian is a Latin word which means midday or noon. A meridian of longitude joins places that have midday at the same time. As the Earth rotates on its axis, the position of the Sun shifts from meridian to meridian. When the Sun is above each meridian, it is noon at places that are on that particular meridian. The prime meridian passes through the observatory at Greenwich, near London. Greenwich is marked as longitude 0 degrees. Longitudes help in calculating the time of a place. The prime meridian divides the Earth into two equal hemispheres, the Eastern Hemisphere and the Western Hemisphere. All other longitudes are measured east and west of the prime meridian. There are 180 longitudes towards the east of the prime meridian and 180 longitudes towards the west of the prime meridian. As the Earth is round, and we know that a full circle has 360 degrees, 180 degrees west, and the 180 degrees east longitude is one and the same. Unlike the latitudes, the longitudes do not run parallel to each other. They are farthest apart at the equator, and the distance between them grows lesser and lesser till they meet at the two poles. All the longitudes are of the same length. The axis is not a longitude. International date line. The international date line is exactly halfway around the world from the prime meridian. It is opposite the prime meridian on the other side of the globe. It runs from the North Pole to the South Pole. It passes almost through the middle of the Pacific Ocean. The international date line follows the 180 degrees longitude. In some places, it deviates from that meridian to the east or to the west. As the name suggests, the international date line marks the change of day. The date changes as soon as one crosses the international date line.
When we move westward across the line, we gain or add a day. When we move eastward across the line, we lose or subtract a day.
Grid. Every place on Earth has a position which is described by two coordinates, latitude and longitude. They cross each other to form a grid on the surface of the Earth. Look at the map. Most of Iceland is located between 15 degrees west and 30 degrees west longitudes and between 60 degrees north and 67.5 degrees north latitudes. Washington, D.C. is located on 37.5 degrees north latitude and between 75 degrees west and 90 degrees west longitudes. Canberra is located just east of 150 degrees east longitude and between 30 degrees south and 37.5 degrees south latitudes.